Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. And just following on from Senator Whish-Wilson, I too want to say I have met with businesses to discuss this issue as well. Only a month ago I was in Stanthorpe, which is in south-west Queensland, and or south-west of Brisbane I should say, and I went to a dinner there and I was expecting to talk about 457 visas for growers, wine equalisation, tax issues, tourist issues. But there was a businessman there, a small businessman, who has a financial advice business in Stanthorpe and with offices in Warwick as well. And he was thanking me. He was thanking me, but he was really thanking Minister Cormann for the work he's done to take a huge regulatory burden off his business. It's a small business in a small town of only a few thousand people, and these changes that Labor introduced a few years ago had a massive impact on his business. Because every 2 years, he's got to go and ask his clients to sign back up with him. Imagine that if you're in any other business. If you're in any other business and you have an ongoing relationship with your clients and your customers, you've got to go back to them every 2 years and re-sign a contract. And it's an unreasonable, unfair and also unbalanced requirement on the small businesses of this nation that provide financial advice in our towns. And I heard Senator Whish-Wilson talk about how we want to encourage Australians to seek financial advice, and I agree completely. But people now in regional areas that will rely on particularly small businesses to provide that advice will have more limited opportunities if we disallow these regulations today, because this regulatory burden will be put back on that business. And I took note of Senator Muir's contribution as well, and I congratulate him and commend him for the fine words he made in his first contribution to this place. But I particularly took note, Senator Muir, of your statement that we should make sure we have sufficient parliamentary scrutiny of measures that go forward before this place. And I agree. I absolutely agree. But why then are we rushing this debate today? Why are we putting this through today when we could have another week to look at it? What was the urgency of having to announce this last night in a deal done between different parties behind the scenes and as you admit, Senator Muir, to break a commitment you had with the government just overnight? What was the urgency? Why can't we have sufficient parliamentary scrutiny to assess the implications of these changes? We all know the reason for that. Because, as you said, Senator Muir, you're worried about other people talking to you about the other implications that might happen. So why shouldn't we wait for that? Why shouldn't you have the time and respect for this place to wait before we move this motion? And I want to say something about, because it also bears on the point you made, Senator Muir, that we need scrutiny of regulatory changes and legislative changes. We absolutely do. But what you may not realise is that when the former government put these reforms in place, they didn't get the scrutiny they meant to have. They got no scrutiny from the proper regulatory impact statement processes that both sides of politics have signed up to. Both sides of politics agree that major regulations have to go through a process before they go to Cabinet and before definitely they come to this place. That is to make sure that when they have these imposts on small businesses like these businesses in Stanthorpe, that there is not an undue regulatory burden placed on them. There is a good reason we have those processes. But in this case, where there are major changes to the financial advice regulatory landscape in this country, no regulatory impact statement was prepared. The regulatory cost of these changes was around $750 million up front for the businesses all around the country. The ongoing cost is expected to be $350 million a year. Not an insubstantial amount of money, but no regulatory impact statement was done by the former government. And the reason they didn't do it is they knew what the answer they'd get. And in government, there's a solid rule. You don't ask a question if you don't know what the answer is going to be. But they knew what the answer was going to be. They knew that if a regulatory impact statement was done on these changes, it would come back negative. It would come back negative for the reasons that Senator Back and Minister Cormann has outlined before. That this is an undue impost on small businesses. It's also unfair in how these opt-in requirements, these 2 yearly requirements I discussed earlier, are subject to or are made a requirement for private businesses or for those in providing individual advice, but they are not a requirement of those that are involved in providing advice through an industry super fund. The intra-fund advice on the regulations under the laws is exempt, and there's no good reason for that at all. I mean, on this side, we believe in fee disclosure. we believe that people providing advice should have to disclose their fees, but industry super funds are exempt under these laws from providing their fees, providing their fees to their clients. And why should they be exempt? Why shouldn't the clients of industry super funds have the same access to information that clients of a different type of financial advice do? There is no good reason provided, and there hasn't been in this debate. There hasn't at all. The issue has been ignored, and ignored for good reason for those on the other side. And I also say, Senator Muir, there has been parliamentary scrutiny of these changes that the government has put forward. There have been 2 Senate Economics Committee reports on these changes. Both of them have recommended them to be enacted. There have been submissions taken by those inquiries and hearings conducted. There has been lots of scrutiny. And of course, the other thing is that the people have been able to scrutinise these changes too, because the policy of the coalition has remained consistent for years now. Right from the start, when Labor introduced these reforms and we knew they hadn't done a regulatory impact statement, I have seen Senator Cormann develop the government's position in opposition when it was his portfolio responsibility, Senator Sinodinos when it was his responsibility, and of course now Minister Cormann again conducting this. It has been consistent the whole way through. And the people voted on this last year. It was put to a vote and the government received a mandate on these changes. It was assessed by the people. And we've now had parliamentary scrutiny, we've had the democratic scrutiny we have through elections, but that is still not enough. Why is it not enough? Why is it not enough? Because I believe what has happened in this chamber today is extremely regrettable. Because we have decided to make a change overnight to what the landscape was, what the regulations in our country was, overnight. And we all know why we've done this. We're going to do this, I believe, we're going to do this because the individual members of the Palmer Party want to split with their party. They want to split with their party and cause division. And that is going to have a multi-million-dollar impact on small businesses, all for the interests of a minor party in this chamber.
Point of order, Senator Xenophon.
The honourable senator is impugning the motive of another senator, basically saying that they are going down a path to vote for legislation for motives that appear to be malicious. That seems to be quite improper.
That's no point of order, Senator Xenophon. Senator Canavan, do you still want a point of order, or do you want to continue?
No, that is fine. That is fine, Mr. Acting Deputy President. Thank you. But as I was saying, Senator Xenophon, we all know why this deal has been done. We know, and you know it, because.
Point of order, Senator Xenophon.
Unless Senator Canavan is a psychic, he does not know. He does not know, unless I've said so. I do not know.
Senator Xenophon, that's a debating point. It's not a point of order.
Mr. Acting Deputy President. But let's be clear. Let's be clear that we are putting a multi-million-dollar impost on small businesses because certain pups and motoring parties want to unleash the dogs of war in this chamber. That is why we're doing this. We are doing this to satisfy the personal and sexual interests of particular senators.
Sorry, Senator Canavan. Could I just get you to clarify that word? I thought you said
sectional, as in a section or a part. Now,
it's never been so exciting in the chair.
I won't take that interjection, but now this is serious business. When I got here a few months ago, you know, we all as new senators were imbued with a lot of pride and honour, and I made the point at the time that. Someone told me this, I didn't know it, but that this was the third largest intake of new senators in our nation's history after an election. And, you know, there was a lot of talk of having a new set of crossbenchers to provide new clarity and scrutiny on the government, which I believe in. I believe in this chamber. I believe in its right to exist. I believe in the merits of having a review mechanism. And I said at the time that, well, maybe we will get a new culture. Perhaps we can make a difference, because I do believe the country got sick and tired of what happened in the previous parliament. They got sick and tired of those overnight deals that were done. You wake up the next morning, you have a different PM. You wake up the next morning and suddenly you have a carbon tax. You wake up the next morning and you have a major change to the EPBC Act, all because there were deals done behind the scenes without parliamentary scrutiny. So I was hopeful that perhaps that would change. Perhaps we would have proper committees and have legislation go through in a methodical way, exactly how the government has progressed with these changes through the committee process. But unfortunately, some senators have not decided to go down that route. They are still continuing the dirty deals that were done in the former parliament. The dirty deals that were done by a former government and crossbenchers which so dirtied this place. And the Australian people rejected it overwhelmingly last year. Now, and I also made the point, I said, well, if we don't change things as new senators, the Australian people will kick us out too, just like they did the last mob. That's what they'll do. They'll get tired of us very quickly. And I think if we continue to behave in this way, by yesterday we weren't going to disallow the financial advice reforms. Today we are. What changed overnight? What did change in this country overnight? Was the temperature different? Did the water change? No. We just woke up and decided we were going to do a different thing. How does that give people any confidence out there in this place? If every day we just decide to do different things. We get out of a different side of the bed and we decide to change our laws. Now, I think we should have more consistency than that. And I recognise, Senator Muir, I recognise that it is hard. There's lots of things that go through this place. But I also note that crossbenchers are given more advisors to help them do that too. And we all have processes way of trying to assess these things. But to every day change our position on things, that's the kind of culture.
Senator Canavan, I'll just remind you to direct your comments through the chair, please.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Deputy President. I take that admonition. We have to provide more consistency as a parliament because people expect that. I was in a meeting the other night, or a dinner with some business people, and they're still bemoaning the fact they have to go overseas, and when they're talking to people in China or in Asia, they have to spend ages talking about the Australian Senate and how it works and the risks of it. Well, sorry, Senator McEwen, that's exactly what they said. Now, maybe they were lying to me, but they said they had an hour meeting with a major investor in China recently. They spent 30 minutes talking about the Australian Senate. 30 minutes of that hour talking about it. That's because of us. We've contributed to that. We all have contributed to that. And we're all continuing to contribute to that with our behaviour today. And I hope that we would have a different future. I hope that with the change things would be different. And I think for the last few months they have been. I think you guys have done, through you, Chair, the Palmer United Party and others have taken a different approach. And we have passed legislation that's taken us a long time. We had to sit late the other night, but we got it done. We got it done. But today we're going back to that different approach, which is this ad hoc, which means we wear a different colour shirt every day, depending on who we're talking to, and I hope that can change in the future.
Order.
Mr. Acting Deputy President, I do commend. I want to finish by commending the work that Minister Cormann has done in the last few years in prosecuting this issue. He has remained consistent, and I do hope that we can find a different way to remove this multi-million-dollar regulatory burden on the small businesses of this country. That for those businesses that provide financial advice that aren't involved in a big company. Minister Cormann made a very good point earlier in this debate. That is that it's not the big businesses in this country that have to worry about the changes we're making today. It's the small businesses. They're the people that can't do this. They must be pulling their hair out right now, thinking they've just got a new framework. It's been put in place. It had the confidence of this place. It was voted on by this place. And then today we're going to change it all for them. So who have they got to help them?
No one.
Who have they got to help them provide their advice? I know we complain we don't have enough advisors. It's hard for us. Who do they have? Who do they have to provide advice to them on the changes that we're going to make now to them? They're going to have to do it all themselves. They're going to have to stay back this weekend and get across it in more detail. They're going to have to spend less time with their kids because of the things we've done in this place. And I'm not going to change what's going to happen tonight, but I want to put on record that what we are doing is hurting small businesses in this nation. It's got to stop, and we've got to have a different approach. Thank you.